All right, welcome, all you freaks, to the next episode of Keep Your Torch Lit, the Survivor Michigan podcast. I'm Jack.
I'm Sam.
I'm Sarah.
So we're just looking at the March Madness game. So Jack got all the Final Four on March Madness.
Yeah, Jack is in last place in our bracket now.
I was like had a really good bracket through the first week, like for the first round 64 through round 32. Like I was looking pretty good, and then I just went a little too crazy on my upset picks.
Oh,
but not crazy in the right ways. Like if I could have had like Auburn and stuff. No, I wanted LSU. I wanted Michigan. I wanted all this crap.
Yeah, that reminds me of how the beginning of the season, my winner picks were Sarah Gallagher, Jonathan, and Shay. And I guess this just didn't pan out that way.
It's not a better analogy would be like if your winner pick was like Matthew or like Kara, because like for the first few weeks, like you're looking really good. Like it's actually really good, and then all of a sudden, boom.
You get hit sideways. Yeah. We had a competition between the three of us where the one that gets second place has to buy a drink for the first place winner, and the one who gets last place has to buy a drink for everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, and guess who's in first right now?
Who?
By a mile.
Is it me?
No, it's me.
Oh.
You're in
you're not
second.
by a mile, Sarah. You're ahead by like 0.1
like 100.
That's okay. Well, there's only a little bit. If Virginia makes the finals, then I'll win.
All right, we'll see.
Yeah. No, but who's the Virginia in Survivor Michigan season 1? Who's the team? The person that it looks like they're probably most likely to win at this point.
Yeah, that's a good question,
Something
Sam.
we'll have to get into. Yeah, speaking of people who are kind of a big threat to win it all, maybe we should bring one of them on as a guest on our podcast.
Whoa.
Oh.
Whoa. Hello?
Whoa.
Oh, it's Liz.
Hi. I didn't say well on purpose. I know that's like your thing. You
feel like
quite well
it's
as well.
billion degrees in here because all of a sudden the sun is close.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. I'm also in a gravitational orbit.
Yeah, so I'm really excited and honored to be a guest on here. I'm going to really try to sound somewhat coherent, but I'm like very, very out of it right now and like not in the right time zone. So
Oh no.
Well, thanks for coming on, Liz.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Anything for you, Sarah.
Where should we start out?
Episode 11. Completely freaking my freak. The name made no sense to me when I clicked on it, and I'm like, I wonder who's gonna say this. I wonder what context this will make sense. I don't know if it actually did make sense in context either, but
Tarowski was freaking out after Tribal.
Tarowski?
Yeah.
Tarowski, he was like putting on a whole show. He was like, I have no allies. He was like, Thal, come with me. Like, I need to talk to you.
I was a little bit bummed by that part, honestly, because the thing after the episode last time made me think they're actually going to get in like a fake fist fight. So I was like, I'll prepare myself for them to like get in a shoving and a yelling match.
It still was pretty cute, though, I have to say.
Who do you think would win that fist fight?
Oh, that's tough. I feel like Tarowski is like a bit bigger, but Thal could I think Thal could have some like karate moves.
Tarowski has longer legs, though. Remember?
Yeah, Tarowski's legs are powerful.
Yeah, it's like a secret weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like in Smash Bros. That's like his whatever his go-to move.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we were all so scared of him and we wanted to vote him out because his legs were just so intimidating.
Yeah.
Those are two big reasons why he's a jury threat right there.
I mean, yeah.
Gosh.
But instead of this Smash Bros showdown, instead they're like trying not to laugh at each other. I thought that was a little cute little part where
I know.
where Thal was like, "Stop making me laugh."
Stop it. Yeah, that was so funny.
Yeah.
Liz, did you guys think that they were actually like having beef over there at the time?
I mean, well, I knew that they weren't because obviously I was talking to Thal, and so I knew, and I was talking to Tarowski too. So I kind of knew I knew it wasn't real, and I think everybody knew it wasn't real, but I mean, I for sure knew.
But Cooper was getting a little suspicious because he was like, he found out like Tarowski voted for Akshay. He was like, someone must have tipped him off. And I think at one point he was saying that you probably told him because he knew that you guys like talked on the phone.
Yeah.
So Cooper's being a little paranoid.
I did tell him actually, so Cooper was right in that assumption. And like, how dumb of me too to see Cooper on the street, and like I was on the phone with Tarowski, and I was like, "Hey, I'm on the phone with your arch nemesis. What's up?" Like, I don't know why that was. I think I'm not a good liar, and so it was probably just my instinct to be like, yeah, I think I just didn't want to sound suspicious. So I was really open about whenever I talked to Tarowski. But yes, I did actually tell Tarowski. I don't think I wanted him to vote Akshay because that would make it look obvious, and then he did. I don't know, but
yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. I'm like, I can understand somebody tipping him off and what was gonna happen, but the fact that he voted for Akshay made it look like someone was talking to him. That's why I was surprised that he didn't vote for somebody else, just to make it look like, kind of like Thal did, like make it look like he didn't know what was going on, even though that he did.
Yeah, I think I wanted him to vote Thal. I don't know what happened there exactly, but yeah.
It would have been hilarious if they had both voted for each other, and then done a little thing where they went aside, like, well, you want to vote for me? Oh, well, you vote for me too.
Would that have changed anything with the numbers? I don't remember exactly the voting numbers.
Well, Akshay voted Tarowski because he was just dead set on voting Tarowski because he was mad at Tarowski at that point, and so he was just like, that's where my vote's going, and then Thal voted Tarowski, and then everybody else voted Akshay.
So yeah, 6-2. So it would have been like a 5-2 to 1.
And that actually put Tarowski at 15 votes against him now, which is honestly kind of a lot.
That's insane.
Also, can I just say, Mrs. Doppelt, I don't know. If you are listening to this, I promise my future mother-in-law, I promise I do not actually think that your son is like this robotic asshole. Like I love Mitch.
Oh,
that was so funny. That confessional.
That was a great confessional, but yeah, you really just like railed into the guys there.
No, I think they're all great people. Sorry.
Who would you most want to kiss under the arch?
Well, I mean, Mitch, obviously. I was so excited to kiss Mitch, as he said on your podcast. Like, you have no idea. I was like, that's all I wanted out of the game, was just the opportunity to kiss Mitch Doppelt.
Oh,
wow. So you peaked like there in like week 3 or 4.
I mean, it was the best kiss of my life. It was really, there were fireworks. It was incredible. So yeah. I mean, I grabbed his face. It was like a Notebook moment.
Oh, it's intense. Yeah.
I remember Mitch having a really funny quote about it, where he was like, "Oh man," or he just, it seemed like it's a duty that he had to do. I don't remember how it was.
Unnecessary evil.
I was also kind of realizing this is the first episode where we're really seeing major cracks in this Maison 6 that hadn't really been shown. Like we've been seeing you guys as being so dysfunctional from the very beginning, but for some reason I feel like you never really thought you guys were going to turn on each other. It was just like, they're this dysfunctional little family, but in the end of the day, they're all just sticking together. They're the Maison people. I just thought that it's crazy that it kind of all came to a head finally, because Brittany's tired of everyone revolving around the sun. Yeah. She wants anarchy, just destroy the sun. And I don't know what happens when you destroy the sun to the rest of the planets, but that's what she wants.
I mean, well, Brittany also, I would like to say, I think that her frustration was very fair. Like, watching it back, I mean, Brittany was always kind of perceived by us as this, and Survivor's all about perception, and she was always perceived as this, like, goat kind of, like, throughout the whole game. And really unfair. And I think a lot of people, including myself, contributed to that in being kind of like condescending and patronizing toward her. In like some of the things I say in my confessionals, I watch it back and I'm like, that's really not like fair to Brittany and how she was playing, because if you see like this past challenge, she won the one where it's all about like kind of knowing what people think of each other. And I think so, and I think you've seen her in confessionals too, like kind of call things before they happen. And so she clearly is like very perceptive. She knows like people are thinking about each other. So I think that she is really an underrated player. She's also a good friend of mine, so I'm biased, but I just think like Brittany, I think deserved better anyway.
And like even when she got like all the kind of sort of like negative superlatives, I feel like she put herself for a lot of those, so she was like aware that other people thought of her that way.
Right, so she's self-aware. It's not like she thinks that everybody thinks she's this incredible player. Like she knows
like
that
Mitch.
people think that
Wait, before we get to that, I wanted to ask why people kind of thought of her as a GOAT. Was it because like they saw her as like your pawn, or like what was the reasoning?
It's so funny to me to hear people say like, oh, like she had Angela in her back pocket, like Brittany was her pawn, like like I was not this like master manipulator. I don't know, but it's like, I mean, I think that Brittany just, she's such a fan of the show, and I think like the whole time she was so itching to make a move, but also because she's smart, she wanted to wait, you know, to, like she wanted to be under the radar. We had the same, which is why she says like we were playing the same game at first, because we had the same strategy early on of like not wanting to come across as threats. You know, we wanted to be like kind of just not really thought about on our tribe. And then later on, I think we both realized like we needed to start making moves, and she just wasn't able, she didn't really have the opportunity to do that. And so she just kind of like continued to be perceived as this weak player.
I think a big part of it too was her losing the lion pre-merge. You
know? Losing the what?
The lion.
The lion, Matthew is.
Oh, the lion. Yes. Love him.
I do think, that Matthew is in the pre-merge, like a huge part of her game in the pre-merge. But I also would say that I think that Brittany was able to function fine without him. Like, it's not like she needs Matthew necessarily. I do think that it was tough to lose her biggest ally and somebody that she was going to make a lot of strategic moves with.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think she's doing fine. She's in a majority alliance. She's won immunity a couple of times. She's able to identify threats, and she's really good at perceiving what other people are thinking and what they might perceive her as. But yeah, I think you definitely said it, Liz. That perception is reality in Survivor to an extent, and like the longer that you try to appear unthreatening, if that's your strategy, the more that people are just gonna not be. You're just not gonna be a threat anymore, and all of a sudden, not be, you know. So it's really finding that balance.
Yeah, I think Brittany was better at compartmentalizing the relationships in the game and outside of the game than I was. So in that way, I think that she maybe played it was maybe healthier for her. I don't think it was necessarily, I think that's probably better in Survivor than what I was doing.
Yeah, well, it's speaking of like taking things personal, this challenge I feel like is all about like personal things. Some of it isn't even like Survivor related. It's just like about life. So let's like go through the questions that were asked. So the first one was like most likely to be struck by lightning, which was Brittany. Is that just like implying that she has bad luck?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's again the perception thing. It's like for those kind of things, you're just like, oh, probably Brittany. Like it just feels like a Brittany thing.
Yeah.
Turned into kind of like a scapegoat for like
a lightning rod, if you will, for for negative comments.
Oh, that was a good one, Jack.
I was like looking at a lot of them. I think that had like Angela or Akshay still been around, they would have probably gotten a lot of the ones that and other people.
Yeah.
I do really like this challenge. It definitely is uncomfortable, but I like seeing people kind of squirm a little bit.
The next question was most likely to be late to their own wedding, and again it was Brittany. But Brittany wrote marrying Matthew. Whoa,
Whoa.
jeez.
Dang, Brittany's gonna keep Matthew hanging. He's gonna be standing up there, and she's just gonna be like, I don't know, getting struck by lightning.
Yeah.
Matthew will go. The time is 12 p.m. on April 28th, 2019, and he'll homicide detective style. And now at 12:07 p.m., Brittany has not showed up.
So,
she must be out looking for the item.
Do you think Matthew's gonna make Brittany change her last name to Israel? So like anytime somebody says Brittany Israel, he can be like, wait, where did that last name come from? wait, what? Oh yeah.
That was me.
Yeah, that was me. And I noticed, so Thal was really bad at this game.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because he's been spending a couple of weeks like building relationships with everyone, like trying to get to know people, and he was worse than Tarowski at this.
Tarowski.
Well, okay, insider info, Thal was purposefully bad at that.
He was throwing it?
Yeah, he threw it.
Why?
He didn't want people to, I don't know, I think it was more important for him to, and I don't know if this was the best choice on his part, but I think it was more important for him to kind of throw people off and not show what he was really thinking than to win that challenge. And I actually, for a few of the questions, I also kind of did that. I wasn't trying to throw the challenge. There were certain things, and sometimes it wasn't even strategy. Like the one about, like, I would put Tarowski for a lot of the bad things just because I knew no one liked him. And so I was like, hey, whatever, but he's safe. But then also, like, I think there was one where everybody put, the one that said who's least deserving to be here. Like, I kind of knew that everyone would say Brittany, but I wasn't willing to say Brittany because I don't know. Like, she was my friend. Like, I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah. So and again, that probably wasn't the best strategy. But Thal, I'm almost positive that he did that on purpose. I think he told me that.
Okay. Did he tell you that during the game or after?
After.
Yeah, like, the reason I did bad is I was throwing.
Yeah. I could have won that easily.
Yeah, he could have but...
Well, he's not dumb. Like like you see some of the answers he put, and it's like, you know, he's smarter than that. Like, it's not like
No, I agree. I think that it was definitely very surprising that he had like 0 points. Everybody else had like 4 or 5. Yeah, definitely it makes a lot more sense. I like the one who said who never shuts up, and who do they answer?
Brittany.
The scapegoat, Brittany. And she's like, I'm the quietest person. Everyone's always like, you need to talk more. I don't know how I got that one.
Oh,
she was very, very upset and confused at that one. I think mostly confused, probably, but
that one definitely belongs to Akshay, though. Like,
he would have gotten that if he were still in it.
He would.
I think somebody commented that. I think somebody said like, "Oh, where's Akshay?"
And then the next one, who do you want to be stranded on an island with? And it ended up being Liz and Thal. So then, you know, I'm going to attribute this joke to Kat, but she said, maybe Liz and Thal should be on an island together. Whoa.
Wink, wink.
Liz, would you like to be on an island with Thal? Would you accept that offer? Or?
Would you accept that rose?
Well, George would have loved that, I think.
I think Tarowski might have been a little jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. I want to get in between.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Tarowski would probably also have to be on the island. They would have separation anxiety. I don't think they can be apart for that.
But you know
what about Mitch too? Like, this is turning into a love polygon, you know?
I mean, George was always teasing me about, like, after I would meet up with Mitch or Thal, he'd be like, so how was your date?
But the thing is, you got to be careful with Thal because Tarowski would be most likely to get away with murder. So,
true.
If he wanted you out of the picture, I don't know, Liz.
I don't know. Yeah, that's true.
So, a really good editing thing I noticed, to give a little shout out to George, is putting the name of who they voted for, like, in text over.
Yes.
And I was like, that was great. I think it was only there for a couple of them. But the ones that I was there for, I was like, oh, that's perfect. I can see exactly Because it was kind of hard to read the whiteboards.
Yeah. I also really like the music for this challenge. I noticed in the beginning. But okay, one of the big things of this challenge is that you got some of the really good ones that like put a huge target on your back. So you got who has the best chance of winning this game, and like everybody. You also got who would you trust with your life. Mm-hmm. So like, what was going through your head when you were getting all of these?
I mean, it's like flattering, you know. I'm like, wow, thanks, guys. But I, mostly was like, oh well, shit, because I mean, it's not. It obviously puts a huge target on your back because, as I said, perception is everything, and like, I'm not actually that incredible. Like, I am just like a normal human being. Like, I'm not, but
what?
But like,
what?
I'm not actually the sun. I know that that's
lies.
Really hard to believe, but I think that just like since everybody thought that I don't know, there was just like this I don't know when this happened either, because it was I guess this week or last week, there was this shift all of a sudden where everyone was like, oh my gosh, like Liz is just way too likable to keep around. Like, I don't know what I did that.
Well, actually, Liz, Brittany was saying she was like she brings blankets and hot chocolate for everyone for tribal.
Okay, so the hot chocolate hadn't happened yet, but I did bring all those blankets that you see at tribal council were my blankets, and one of them is you see me using the mermaid tail one. That's my favorite blanket.
Oh,
this is maybe one of my favorite parts of this episode was every single person who do you think is most likely to win? Every single person says Liz, except for one person, who is Mitch. And who does Mitch write down? He writes down his own name. Not only does he think he's the most likely to win, he thinks that everybody else thinks that he's the most likely to win. And he puts his name and he just kind of looks around and he goes, oh.
And that's the reason why he lost the challenge.
And he lost the challenge on that one.
Trowski has a great confession about that.
Yes.
It's just gosh. Like, not only was him writing down his own name such a sign of self-indulgence, it also lost him the challenge. His ego was so big he had to write his own name down, and then he lost immunity because of it. It was just poetic beauty.
Well, it's funny because later when he meets with Mitch meets with Tarowski, he's like, I thought that one about the winner was surprising. Like, he was still not over it.
Yeah.
Wait, Mitch said that?
Yeah, he was like, I thought it was surprising.
Mitch told me, I think he told me that he did that so that there wouldn't be as much of a target on my back, which like, but did he really care that much to lose the challenge to like not put as much of a target on my back? I don't know. But then he calls me cocky and I was like,
yeah. Wait, I think I know the real reason why Mitch said that.
Why?
Because he always was talking to his mom, and I bet his mom was always just like, Mitch, you are the best at this game. You're the biggest threat. You're the most likely to win, Mitch. Everybody is rooting for you so much. So, I think his mom got to him. Mrs. Gopele got to him.
I will say, in every single episode so far, I've looked in the comments, reading through the comments, and there's always a comment every time from, I think it's one of Mitch's, like, relatives.
Yes,
says, hey, rooting for you, Mitch. We like, oh, you're still in the game, Mitch. Like, we're all pulling for you, Mitch. Like,
that's so
I think
cute.
it's super nice.
Yeah,
and
like,
he always responds like, oh, thanks so much. But yeah, I can definitely see it. He's getting hyped up. His mom, maybe it's something that runs in his family. Everyone's telling him like, Mitch, you're the best.
Yeah.
You're my sweet boy. Everyone's gonna love you, of course.
He loves
to get to the end, they're all gonna vote for you.
Yeah.
So
that actually makes so much sense.
But Mitch is definitely though getting a very rough edit this episode. Yeah. I think at this point we're kind of getting a different side of Mitch, where it's kind of showing him as maybe falsely thinking he's in control, kind of thing. Which is I think, a bit of a change from what we were seeing earlier.
He was a little more cocky this episode.
So what I would say about Mitch is I think Mitch outside of the game is like the most adorable, sweetest, kindest person. He's funny. Like, I love hanging out with him. But I think in the game, and like the reason you see me even early on saying like, all these guys are robots. Like, I don't feel that close to Mitch. Like, all these things.
Yeah.
It's because I feel like he wasn't really himself in the game. And I think that we were playing very different games in that way. And that's kind of why we were so at odds the whole time, because like we just were so different in our approach to the game. And I think for him, he was pure strategy. He was like down to business the whole time. And so for me, like that made him seem kind of like cold and robotic to me the whole game, because I was like, I don't know who this person is. Like, we've only talked strategy. Like, I don't, you know, like and sometimes, you know, there were like glimpses where like I got to see kind of like his real personality. But I think that sometimes because he was so strategic, that's why I kind of have that remark this episode where I'm talking about how I don't like the way he talks to me, because I think that it felt kind of like mansplaining sometimes, you know, it was like, because I really feel like, because I mean, I was always perceived as, you know, the social player, but I'm also not an idiot. And it bothered me when especially Mitch kind of assumed that he knew, like, could come up with better strategic ideas than me. And that's how it always felt. It always felt like he was telling me or like explaining something to me. And I don't think that was intentional at all. And I think that it just kind of sometimes would come across that way. And I think for other people, they kind of had moments with that kind of where he kind of rubbed them the wrong way, because he was just so strategic and serious about the game. And again, he compartmentalized his relationships versus like inside the game versus who he was outside of the game, I think better than I did. So yeah.
Do you think in general guys are perceived as being like more strategic, and like let's say like a guy and a girl made a move together, like the guy would get more credit?
Yeah, I think that Brittany was like, she was making smart moves too, and like people were like, she's not really doing anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like she was just like a little less assertive about it, maybe. Like she's just not like helping.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That doesn't mean that she's not intelligent and strong. Like just because she's like quieter and more under the radar, like that doesn't mean that she. But I think that definitely affected her perception. Like I was maybe louder and more obnoxious, and so people were like, "She's
she's so social."
Yeah. That's what, it's so funny, because I'm not even like. I think we're just all such nerds that that they were like, "Oh my gosh, she's so social."
That's funny. There's an interesting thing about like perception about like how a guy versus a girl might be perceived as far as strategic ability. But and that's something that obviously I won't be able to probably speak on as well as you guys would be able to as girls who played Survivor. One brief small counterpoint is that Liz, I think, has been perceived in this season at least as the biggest threat, or at least that's kind of the edit we're seeing, is of Liz being the biggest threat.
But I think that edit has been shown. I think most of what people are saying, because like their reasoning behind me being the biggest threat, and I do think like it's shown, like some of my strategy is shown and that comes through. But in all the confessionals where people are talking about me being a threat, it's all because of my social game. Like it's never because of you know.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. It makes sense.
Anyways, Brittany, she won immunity this week again.
She did.
Yeah.
Very proud of Brittany. Her second immunity win.
Her Nana was loving it.
Twice so far.
Her Nana was wearing her necklace.
Oh my god.
So
that was such a cute moment.
Yeah.
Amazing. Is she the only person that has won twice this season?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Brittany
far.
with the most immunities so far. Yes. And Nana, wearing the necklace, that was incredible.
All right, and then we literally dive into some intense strategy. I feel like everyone met with everyone. Like there were so many meetings this week.
I think one of the first things we saw is Liz. You have a pretty big announcement that you're going to tell somebody. You really took a long time to say it over the phone.
Oh, and I said about 15 times during that one sentence too. I was like, yeah, so I just I don't know who to tell this to, 'cause, I'm really scared that I don't know, but I have the idol. Honestly, George made me look more eloquent than I really am in real life.
No, but guys, Tarowski and Dahl's face during this whole sequence is hilarious. Oh my gosh.
I know. I laughed so hard at that.
It honestly seemed like this is too good to have been. It almost feels like, is this whole season scripted? This is too incredible. Just seeing how they're both there, and you had you're filming your face, you're saying it. I think you're having this intimate conversation with Thal. Then it shows they're both there, and Tarowski's just like looking at Thal with like this like expression as soon as you say like, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, and then Tarowski's like, oh my gosh, like
I like how Thal had to kind of keep it together because he was still talking to you, but Tarowski was just freaking out in the background.
Yeah,
that was so great.
Liz, how does it feel that we thought was an intimate conversation with Thal was really Tarowski was in on it too?
Yeah.
It was a very intimate conversation, so it was very uncomfortable that Tarowski was in the background. But no, it was I mean, it's funny to watch back now because it was like a year it was a year and a half ago, so, and I'm friends with them now, and so it's just funny. But I mean, had this aired like right after the season, I would have been pissed watching this back.
So I guess it's good there's been like a year for this to settle down.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I definitely needed it. Like, it's funny now, but
Okay, so Tarowski is still this target that everyone's going after in the beginning. Like, you and Leia are on the phone, and Leia's like, why should we keep Tarowski around any longer at this point? Then Cooper has a genius idea, and it's like, why don't we just get Liz this week?
Genius.
Because I think so that Maison plan was to split 3-2 on the Alexes, and he was like, this is perfect. Me, you, we can pull in Tarowski, vote out Liz.
Perfect.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, all right, and that's what happened.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
That's it.
I know. I think it's crazy. Like, this is it. Mm-hmm. Like, this 5-person alliance that had been kind of dominating the merge so far is finally starting to break apart. Mm-hmm. The Alexes have kind of been under this microscope for a long time, and now it kind of finally seems like they may have survived to the point where now they're not the biggest targets anymore, and like Liz is now kind of the biggest target around.
So this kind of continues, and Leia meets with Mitch, and she tells him that Cooper's scared of the Liz and Mitch duo, and Mitch is like kind of reluctant. He's like, well, I'm not gonna vote her, but I can scare her.
I can scare her.
Ooh, I can scare her. I just pictured like Monsters Inc. Like Mitch.
Yeah, I did too. Mitch coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mitch is the least scary person I guess.
He's like Mike Wazowski.
Yeah.
And Tarowski is Sully.
Mitch is like, if someone's like, oh, I got something really scary to show you, and then they just bring out a puppy from behind their back. And they're like, boo. And you're like, oh.
But then he also just lies and was like, I don't think Liz has the idol. Mm-hmm. And then Leia's like, I kind of think she does. And then Mitch is like, I suspect she does as well.
She does as well.
Wait, so he says, I don't think she has it. I think she does. You know, I actually do kind of think she does too.
Well, but this is where I think Mitch was kind of like, I think there was a lot of internal conflict going on this week for him, because clearly he's like, I have this alliance with Leia, I have this alliance with Liz, like, do I want Liz out this week? I don't know, but I kind of want her out, but then also, do I tell Leia about this? Like, what? I don't know. And clearly he was closer with Leia than he was with me, so I was honestly surprised watching that back. I thought he probably immediately told Leia, but...
I think we talked about this like a few weeks ago, like where I was saying like I thought that I was like assuming that he was closer with you, and Cooper is saying like, oh no, I think he was definitely closer with Leia.
Yeah,
and, like that was one of the things where he does have very tight relationships with you both. And my guess is at the time you probably both thought that you were his stronger alliance.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
maybe Mitch didn't even know who was, but.
Well, it's funny because the entire season you see Mitch and me, and it's like we are supposedly one of the strongest alliances in the game, but or at least that's how everyone perceives us, as if we're this pair, and then we never say anything good. We're always mad at each other the entire game.
You're like an old married couple.
Yeah, that's. I mean.
kiss under the arch, and then
we're just. I mean, that's what happens when you're in a passionate relationship. You know, you bicker. It's just.
Oh man, I do think Survivor ages you more than you probably realize. Liz very quickly turned into a mother. You know, you went from college student to mother, and now all of a sudden you're old married couple. That was quite the journey, and it's only 2 months. What, 2.5 months?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's an intense game.
Okay, so meanwhile, Thal is talking about, so from his point of view, there's Liz and Mitch, and then there's Leia and Cooper, and then Brittany's in the middle. But his secret weapon is his relationship with you, Liz. And so
his secret weapon.
You're his secret weapon. So he tells you their entire plan. Mm-hmm. And he's just kind of like, everyone wants to turn on each other. This is perfect for me. And so this is where you kind of like, I feel like from your point of view, you're probably like, my game's crumbling, like all my allies are turning on me. Mm-hmm. And now like Thal's the person I trust the most. Like that must have been tough hearing that. Like, did you believe him fully?
Yes, yeah. I trusted Thal completely. And part of that is because kind of the way that our alliance started. I mean, we met at a bar, like we were just being ourselves, like just normal people. You know, it was refreshing to talk to somebody who it felt like, and even in our first meeting, you know, when we were sober, it felt like it felt like I was just having a real conversation with a real person, which for me I had been like craving, because I just was so like tired of, I knew I was being lied to constantly, and this game was really emotionally draining on me because I was having such a hard time voting people out and like lying. I hate lying. I hate it was just so, I don't know. I was and like I did feel like a lot of people were very like, I mean, there were a lot of kind of game bots, and it was just, and it felt like, so that's kind of why I think our relationship started in this place where we were like, we both just really wanted someone that we could trust. And Thal says in a confessional this week that like he just needed that like one person. I mean, obviously at Tarowski, but he needed one person he could completely trust. And I think that was like a really mutual need to have, you know, somebody that you could just like be real with, and like that kind of kept me sane in the game. And so I think, I mean, we were on the phone like constantly. This week this all happened over Thanksgiving break, and I think I trusted him also so much because he did tell me everything. And I knew that like there was no way he was going to spend this many hours on the phone with me going over every single detail that had happened. Okay. If like there's no way he had that much time if he was just playing me, you know.
Yeah. And he had an interesting quote where he was saying that he was creating friendships and relationships instead of alliances and deals. Which I guess really helped him in this case.
It definitely seems different than kind of what you were describing earlier of what so far your interactions with the boys have been like, where they're definitely more concentrated on strategy and deals than
and managing their girls.
Managing things, exactly.
Yeah, Thal didn't really try to manage me, so it was
it's refreshing.
It was nice. I mean, Thal also like he's a very charming person, and I think that he has the capability to like, not that he would ever do this in real life. I think he's a great person, but I think that because he's like so charming and he talks to you and like I think he made everyone feel special and comfortable. And I think he has this ability to kind of be manipulative if he wants to, you know. He has like, there's like something about him that just like everyone liked him. Like he was just, and everyone felt like, you see everybody making deals with him, even though like, you know, like they don't really have any reason to trust him, but like everyone did, you know?
No, I see that for sure. You like want him to be your confidant. But you know who doesn't is Brittany. Brittany sees through everything.
She does.
Yeah, no, she doesn't get enough credit for it. She really does.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of if there's anybody in the game that Brittany actually is like, like in a game sense, likes. Like maybe I honestly at this point in a weird way it might be Mitch, where it seems like they had their falling out, and now she's like, I don't know. I mean, they did end up in the different sides of the vote, and they aren't really as tight as Mitch is with Liz and Leia. Yeah. I'm trying to think of anyone where she's like, I trust this person and I want to work with them. And like, because it seems like everyone she's just like talking about how she doesn't trust them and needs them to be voted out.
I mean, she does like trust Liz. I feel like she just knows that she just like wants Liz out still because people see her as being in her back pocket.
And I think it's also because Liz started sending like heart emojis and stuff when they were texting. I remember that confessional from a few weeks ago. Like, Liz, what happened? Why'd you stop sending those heart emojis?
Brittany and I think we would like, we were friends. Like we would talk about boys all the time. We were like, it was like, it was a very like, so it's weird because then in the actual game she's like, I'm so mad at Liz because I think she's gonna beat me, which is also funny because everybody keeps talking about how annoyed they are with me, but then they're like, but she's like, everyone loves her and she's gonna win, and it's like, but don't you all are mad at me? I'm so confused.
For some reason I just really like this scene of like how Thal's just kind of like in like this garden, like almost, I don't know. There's like all this like brightness, but he's just like lying like straight shit on his phone for like 5 minutes straight.
I really do think this is like a turning point in the episode because kind of like you said, Liz, everyone has been really trusting Thal and giving him all this information, and Cooper has this plan with Leia and he wants to bring Thal in and Brittany in to blindside Liz, and Thal kind of has, I think, a decision to make if he's gonna decide to go with that plan or if he's gonna decide not to. And he calls Mitch in this phone call, and I think that is really a big point. I think this is the point that this Maison alliance is like truly broken. I think this phone call is what breaks it. Thal kind of is turning it against everyone against each other, I think. So I thought it was a really big phone call.
Yeah. Well, I was shocked because Thal and I, when we were concocting this plan, I was so sure. I didn't even consider Mitch not wanting to tell me about it. I was so sure that he would. I didn't think he was ready to get rid of me at that point, and I so thought he was still with me. So that's why I had that confessional where I was like, I'm so pissed at Mitch.
So Thal and Mitch are on this phone call still. Mitch was like, okay, I'll give you my reaction, because it's like kind of hard because they're over the phone.
Yeah.
But so Mitch is not really surprised by Cooper and Leia. So like at that point, he already kind of knew there were some fractures, but he was surprised by Brittany. But then he was like, oh, I guess she's like itching to do something substantial. But then Thal was explaining how he would rather be with you and Mitch instead of Cooper and Leia, because he feel like he would be at the bottom of like the Cooper, Leia, Brittany trio. So that's like his reasoning.
Mitch did not tell me any of this.
Okay.
Mitch, he did scare me. He told me basically that, you know, he was really worried that Leia and Cooper were probably going to try to turn on me this week, and so I should play my idol. He really wanted to flush me. I think he did tell me that Thal and him had talked, but he said that basically nothing happened in that conversation.
Okay, and then Mitch had a confessional after this. He was like, Thal's going to be so happy that the idol is gone.
So happy.
Going home. He's going to love it. But then you know what he also says? He says Cooper is the most arrogant player in the game. Right after he votes for himself as most likely to win.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen the adorable Mitch for a while, and I feel like only recently we're seeing like this really scary game bot Mitch.
really scary.
Really scary.
Mitch is as scary as Leia is talented.
Yeah.
Leia, I will say, she is very talented. Like she.
Wow, Liz, you are definitely the best at doing that accent.
Yeah,
she's been around it the most.
Well, I worked with Mitch for months.
Okay, so remember how Lovato thought she was in control of everything? Now it's Mitch who thinks he's in control of everything.
He's in complete control.
All right, just hear me out here. What if we're seeing this different side of Mitch because he's actually being controlled by Lovato?
Oh, he's being possessed.
Oh my god!
Oh,
Akshay turned evil after Lovato went because Lovato was taking got his evil spirit. Now Akshay's gone.
Oh,
you're so right, Sam. And now Lovato has picked her next target.
Wow.
We have this complete change in demeanor immediately.
That's crazy.
Well, yeah, actually, you know, I mean, we'll probably talk about this later, but the reason that I didn't play my idol at Tribal was because I heard Lavana whisper in my ear not to play it.
Wait, Liz, that makes so much sense because I saw you like kind of think about it and then like look over to the left. Okay, that makes so much sense.
Yep,
Oh,
that's what happened.
All coming together.
Wait, Liz.
Uh-huh.
You had an iconic line. It was, Mitch didn't want me to talk to Tarowski, but like fuck that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, as Mitch said, sorry mom for the language. But Mitch was trying to manage me that week. Aww. And trying really hard, and he did not want me to talk to Tarowski, and I was actually nervous. I was still at that point trying to maintain a good relationship with Mitch, and at that point our plan was to have we needed Mitch because we wanted Thal, Tarowski, Mitch, and me, the four of us, to all vote for Cooper. And so I was kind of like walking on eggshells. I didn't know that Thal and Tarowski were quite as close as they were. And so I was like, what do I say to Tarowski? But I did end up talking to Tarowski.
Speaking with the devil. The devil himself.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think a really important thing in Survivor is that if somebody's telling you not to speak to somebody, there should be huge, gigantic red flags go up. Like, you should be like, why do they not want me to talk to this person? Like, what possible information could they have?
Also, though, I think you have to understand at that point, Tarowski was like, he really was in the game perceived as like the devil. If you were talking to him, it was like, why would you ever talk to Tarowski? Like, you can't tell him anything. He's gonna, like, people seriously, it was as if people thought he had these magical evil powers, and if you told him anything, he would somehow like find 11 idols out of it. Like, it was just
well, I guess this is a good spot to talk about who was playing the better game, Tarowski or Thal, because Tarowski kind of explains. He's like, I haven't had to form any of the relationships. He's getting all this info from Thal. And so when it comes down to it, Thal's going to have to do all the backstabbing. Mm-hmm. So I guess, like, which strategy do we think is better?
I don't know. For me personally, I think it's really hard to say that you've played a really good game if you have 15 votes against you already. Like, I feel like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say like where things are gonna go from here, but if you are at risk at all these tribals where like he could have easily gone home at the merge if it weren't for him being able to convince Akshay to flip. But like the fact that he has to, like, he's gotten all these votes, he's kind of been a vote lightning rod, whereas with Thal, you know, he's been a little bit in Tarowski's shadow, at least for like maybe the first half of this game, but I think that he like does have better relationships with people, and it's hard to say if he has to backstab those people, those relationships might turn sour, or if those relationships could get him a jury win. Because I'm like, the more I think about it, if they both go to the end together, which I'm assuming they both want to do, I think Thal might win that. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends on the jury too.
Yeah.
Well, I can say from my perspective that week, I remember I had a conversation with Thal where, because he was always like, he would say things like, you know, Liz, like, I know that, you know, everybody in the game thinks I'm weak. Like, you would definitely beat me, but I don't care. Like, it was like we had this kind of like, it's like us against the world mentality, like the whole, like that end of the game. But I was always like, Thal, no, like I genuinely thought that he would win, but I really thought Thal would win over Tarowski. And me, honestly, but I at that point also was like, I don't care, and also he was my only chance, so it didn't matter, you know, like I had no option, so it was like I either go to the end with Thal and Tarowski or I'm voted out.
And I get the not having to backstab people part, but I personally feel like building the relationships is always better. That's just my opinion about that.
I might play devil's advocate for the devil himself here. And I will say that the fact that Tarowski is so notorious for like finding idols, so notorious that people don't even want to talk to him because you're, you know, in the back of your mind where he's just going to find an idol, I think just like speaks to how much of a force he's been in season one. Like everyone is terrified of him. Like they're so terrified of him, they don't even want to vote for him because they think he's going to play an idol and they're going to get idled out. I really respect that Tarowski isn't playing full tilt since day one of the game.
Yeah.
Thal, I think, has played a more low-key game. But we haven't really seen a lot of it until, I think, after the merge. And maybe that's part of the strategy.
True.
And maybe part of the strategy is to kind of lay low and keep the target off of his back. They both have very different things.
Right.
Very different strategies. But if both of them get you to the end, I think that Tarowski's way is a lot more risky, but it's also, I think, a lot harder to pull off. If he was able to pull that off, I think they would deserve it over Thal. I think that the thing we're arguing about is thinking like, well, he's gotten a lot of votes, so like that means that, he hasn't been playing as good. But like, well, he survived it still. Like he found a way.
Yeah,
so I would say that to me is just very impressive. But in the end, you also need to get people to want to vote for you.
Yeah.
So.
I just think like Tarowski played a more intense game in the beginning, and now is laying low because he's such a big threat.
Yeah.
And then Thal was kind of more low key, and now he's like making some moves. So they kind of like did an opposite thing.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it's all about, again, perception. So it's really, in the end, who played the best game. It's up to who the jury thinks played the best game. And so you have to think about it really all depends on who's on the jury and what they would think. And that's who played the best game.
Exactly.
But I think that it's more important at this stage in the game to have good relationships with people rather than to have these big moves that you made, like especially with Tarowski. Like I think like Cooper said or something, like he peaked too early at this big move in that double travel week. And I think that people might feel better about voting for Thal, who they like, who their relationship with, than maybe voting for this guy who's the evil mastermind. Like maybe if some people are really bitter towards Tarowski, they might want to be like, oh, like you think you're so like smart, evil guy, like well, I'm actually the good guy. Like it's so hard to say what perceptions people have.
I do think it's really impressive to be able to pull off these whatever big moves or really good strategic moves, but do it in a way that isn't going to make people mad or isn't going to like make you a huge target. I think it's a lot harder to pull those off while still being under the radar. So I think that is tougher than just kind of bulldozing through the game, which it kind of looks like Tarowski has done so far. But I also say that I don't think he's been making like reckless moves. Like it's kind of been a result of like people are targeting him, so he needs to kind of scramble to get out of it. And he's been able to scramble every time. I definitely respect that a lot.
I mean, he did at least have his relationship with me. Like Tarowski and we talked more than is shown. I think like we had more of a relationship throughout the game than has really been shown. He did, he had Thal and me. Like he did have a couple of relationships. Like it wasn't like he talked to no one. He
had Kara and Angela.
Oh yeah, that's true. He was with Cooper earlier in the game, and then definitely Angela.
Yeah, honestly, I think everyone who's left in the game is a great player.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. You can make an argument for any of the final 7.
Yeah.
I think at this point to be a good winner. I'd like to hear what the two Alexes would say.
I think Tarowski would win that argument. I mean, if you see him talking to Thal in all of their conversations, he's always like dominating the conversation. I laughed so hard at the one where they're sitting there and Tarowski, he's in his boxers and you see his legs, and then he's like he's like yelling at Thal because Thal's like because Tarowski's like, okay, well, if it doesn't go, or if they're gonna vote me, then we have to blow it up, right?
Right.
And Thal's like, oh, I guess.
Well, there's always a dominant one, in the relationship. So, okay, so we get to the day of tribal. This is when Brenny starts freaking her freak.
Yeah.
And
she has zero idea what is happening.
Is that a real expression, or?
It's a Brittany expression.
It's an albino fox expression. Okay. And I was a little confused, actually, about the part right before tribal, where somebody got a phone call and like Thal, Cooper, and Leia were freaking out. And then Leia was like, we just need to vote Tarowski. I was kind of confused.
Hey guys, I know you have a lot to digest this week, but let me throw maybe a few more logs into the insane raging bonfire that is this week of strategy. First off, going into Tribal Council, obviously we saw a lot of paranoia and last-minute plan switching going on with Thal, Cooper, and Leia. Well, there was kind of some distrust there going into Tribal Council, where Cooper seeing Thal do all this, crazy, vote changing, and kind of starts to distrust Thal. And right before Tribal Council, Brittany, Leia, and Cooper are all sitting just kind of off to the side, and Thal's like, I don't know what to do, and he just walks by them, and he says, I'm voting Mitch, that's what I'm doing, that's what we're doing. And he just walks into tribal council. And really, that was kind of the last, the straw that broke the camel's back there. And that's kind of why Cooper blew up at tribal. Also, amalgamation of things. But in the end, Cooper does all of that. And really, it was a ploy. Because in the end, they still vote for Liz. So all of this, we're actually splitting the votes for maybe Thal and Tarowski. Or, we're actually sticking to this plan or that. It was all just to throw people off. And it kind of threw them off too much. And Mitch ends up voting for Tarowski. And we know how all of that ends up in the end.
Oh my gosh, it was so complicated. But I'm trying to think back to, and this is a long time ago too, and Thal and I were so in our heads about this, and it was just like, we had gone over everything a million times. So basically, like, Thal and I had been, well, I guess Tarowski, because he was, he knew everything. But Thal and I had been saying, like, okay, so, like, we had been planning Cooper the entire time, right? And so I had talked to Mitch, I think a couple days before whenever we got back from Thanksgiving break, met up with Mitch in, I believe, the Ross School of Business, and we he, because he had been going back and forth on whether or not he was willing to vote Cooper. He was like, he'd be like, oh, I don't know, okay, I guess, but like, and then he was like, okay, I think I want it to be Tarowski. I don't know if I can vote Cooper. And then I convinced him to vote Cooper. So anyway, so I called Thal and I'm like, okay, we're good. I think he's going to vote Cooper. And then Thal has this idea where he's like, so something that wasn't really shown is that Thal was really worried about, he kind of explains this in his like 3-option confessional, but it was really important to him to kind of maintain relationships with the other side. Like, he was really scared that if we all voted, if he were to vote Cooper and I didn't play my idol, then everybody on the other side would know that he had been in talks with me. And then like next week, he was really worried about, he wanted the next week for him to be able to basically use our secret alliance so that he could get information from the other side. And he valued that over me having the idol. And for me, I was kind of at his will because like, I needed him that week. And so it was like, I was like, okay, like whatever you want to do, because like I needed him, like I was without him. And so I was like, I did not want to play my idol, but if I didn't think I had to, and I didn't care that much if Thal was able to get information the next week, but I couldn't like make him mad. Like I needed that. So I was like, okay. And then he came up with this plan where I could both not play the idol and he could have that like secrecy next week if we voted Mitch out. And so that's why, so we had come up with that plan like the day before, but we were still actually like going back and forth on whether he should do it an hour before tribal. And then he talked to them 45 minutes before tribal, I think. And because we wanted it to be like right before so that they couldn't like go to Mitch and like blow it up, and so it was like right before tribal, like it was intense. And then Tarowski and I both got to the tribal, and we were the only ones there, and we were both like, we both knew, but we didn't know that we both knew what was going on. And so we were like, oh no. It was bad. Like, we knew that something had not gone right. And I was pretty sure that the Mitch plan that Thal was going to pitch was not going to work. I was pretty sure that they were going to say, okay, like, let's just vote Tarowski then. But I was okay with that, because then I thought if they said, okay, let's just vote Tarowski, then Thal would then go back to the, okay, let's the 4 of us vote Cooper, and then I don't have to play the idol thing, which was what I wanted to happen. And so I was fine with that, but thank God that didn't happen, because Mitch probably wouldn't have voted Cooper, and because he was convinced I was going to play my idol, and I would have gone home. Anyway.
Wow. That's really complicated.
That is extremely complicated.
That kind of answers. So we asked on our Twitter, like, if people had any questions, and Noah Salmond, he was asking, like, was it a good idea for Thal to tell Leia and Cooper about Mitch while on the way to tribal? he said to him it seemed unnecessary and almost ruined Alex's chances of staying. So I guess you kind of just answered that question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was definitely a risky last-minute choice. I think it was the most recent idea we had come up with after talking about this over and over for like a week, and it was kind of new and exciting and like, oh my gosh, we could have everything that we wanted, and at that point too, I was pissed at Mitch. I was like, and I thought, it's the best of both worlds. Like, well, I mean, I would have preferred we voted out Cooper than Mitch, but I was also kind of like, well, if they do agree to vote out Mitch, which I doubt, but if they do, then the only other person who I thought knew about my idol is gone, and I don't think that he's with me next week anyway, so it was kind of like, okay, sure.
If you guys would have gotten rid of Mitch, though, I'm a little bit like, what would have been the game plan going into Final Six? Would it have been, because it would have been you and the Alexes versus the other three? I mean,
yeah, well, I think the idea was we kind of knew that it was going to be 3-3 the next week either way, because we knew that Mitch he might not want to vote me out this week, but he was going to want to do it soon. And so like we knew that he wasn't like on our side. He was just like maybe kind of with us for a vote. So I think the idea was like, it was okay to lose Mitch or Cooper. With the Mitch plan, I wouldn't have to play my idol, and so I would have that the next week. And so I think that was kind of the idea.
And then you thought that maybe like Thal could get information from them about who they're voting for, and you could play.
Yeah, that was really important to Thal that week. It was like he really wanted to be able to like get information from the other side the next week. And so
that makes sense.
For me, it was like, I don't know. Again, like I didn't care. I did, like, I thought, yeah, that's useful if you can get, but I was like, I would rather have the idol, like, I don't know. So it was, but I was, again, kind of just at Thal's will because I needed him.
Okay. So going into Tribal, I guess, like, before Tribal even starts, Cooper's whispering to, like, Brittany and Leia. Liz, you're kind of in the back, like, what the fuck? You were visibly like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And then George starts talking, and Cooper is all like, I gotta interrupt you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cooper thinks he's like the host of the season. He's the one asking questions and stuff.
So what does Cooper do, Jack?
Yeah, so Cooper turns around to Liz, and he tells you, Liz, that there's a plan to get you out, and apparently you had heard all about it. And then he tells you to stick with the plan.
Yeah.
Split 3-2 on Alex's. So,
well, it was so funny too to watch that back, because you see me at my first reaction. Yeah, like I'm like so mad. I'm like, yeah, I knew about it. And then I'm like, actually, I just like thought that because you guys were being weird. And I was like, what was wrong with me? Like,
why you said that? And you're just like, what?
Because I wasn't supposed to. I realized I wasn't supposed to know, and so I was like, oh shit. And then like,
I just feel like I don't understand exactly what Cooper's doing here. It just seems like, yeah, we were going to vote you off, but don't worry. Like, I know we were going to vote you off, and I know you heard that we were going to it, but now we're back to normal. So don't worry. I know, I'm sorry that we were going to turn on you, and I kind of got caught red-handed here, but you know what? We're going back to the original plan. Like, you good?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that he was freaked out. I think like basically what Cooper was trying to do that entire Tribal was kind of like he was just trying to, like, he was faking the whole thing because he was planning on voting me the whole time, but he wanted to like somehow convince me that he wasn't going to vote me. But like, I don't think his plan was ever to not vote me out. I think it was just like, let's create chaos so that she thinks it might not be.
So like you play your
idol? Did you just kind of call his bluff? Like, or did you just have your mind made up, or did you call his bluff? You're like, what? Like, I mean, I know you obviously didn't want Swarovski to go home anyways.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you see at Tribal of me yelling at everyone and stuff, I mean, I was playing it up because I wasn't supposed to really know any of this. Like, I was supposedly had my suspicions because they had been acting weird, but like, how was I supposed to know? Like, Thal was supposed to have told me. So it was kind of like I was trying to act like I was just learning all this information, and so I was like upset and whatever. I think like going into it, Thal was supposed to text me what happened, and it was funny. We had like this number system like for everything that happened. Like, okay, if this happens, like I'll text you a 1, and like if this happens, and like we had like our names were different on our phones and stuff. So I think it like everything was so chaotic that I don't think he even texted me before tribal, and so or it was like there was no explanation, and so I think I just didn't really honestly know what had happened.
I just think it's funny. So Mitch exposing Thal. He's like, I knew I couldn't trust Thal. He's like, you want to know what really happened? Like, Thal went to me in there, and the whole time Thal is just sitting there. You guys are all like cheating on him, and he's just like sitting there.
Oh yeah, no, because everything, it was so funny. Like after that, I remember him telling me like it was like every single lie that I had told that entire week, like all the phone conversations, like all the hours that went into this is all just coming out. And like every lie just
I think Thal kind of was playing like so well that he thought he was almost like invincible. Now maybe wanting to retract some of the things I was saying earlier. Like I think that he let kind of like the perfect be the enemy of the good here, and he was just with that thing with you about getting Mitch out the week. He thought that maybe there's a way that everything can go exactly perfect.
Yeah.
When really I think he should have been content with
just Cooper.
Yeah.
And not having everything just expose.
Right.
He might have overplayed his hand a little bit.
Yeah. Thal loves this game, and I think that he clearly like he overthinks things, and I think that he like, but he's clearly a great strategist, and he has all these ideas, and like he wants to like do like he really like, it's incredible the things he comes up with. So I think that this was like exciting to him, and
Brittany was like, no one has given me the Sparks Note version.
Oh, Brittany, love it. And I love how Tarowski is like sitting in the back, and he's just like completely just out of the fray. Like it's just like the fireworks are going on all around him, and I bet he's just loving it.
Yeah,
they're all turning on each other, and he's like, oh well, all right.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think like it was just, I think nobody really knew how to act. Everyone was freaking out, and they all dealt with it in their own way.
Yeah, and then like, why did Mitch say that he had the idol?
Oh, okay. So that was wild. Like I was confused. Everyone was confused. Honestly, the most confusing thing about that entire week was Mitch. Like Mitch was just, I was like, what is going on with him? Like I was so confused about what game he was playing. And
in his head. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was trying to cover for me because he still wanted me in the game that week, and I guess he was like trying to, I don't know.
Another thing that happened that you definitely don't know about is Liz at Tribal Council showed everyone her idol. I cut this for time. I cut this for a lot of reasons. There was just already so much going on, and it was kind of like a very quick thing, and everybody kind of already knew she had it, so it didn't really matter. But after Mitch claimed at Tribal Council, I actually have the idol this whole time. A couple minutes after, Liz kind of just does it herself. She's like, no, you know what? I have the idol, George. And that kind of just, it threw everyone for a loop again, but people were still already understanding that she had the idol. So I cut that. I know that might have been an interesting thing, but you'll see a little bit of stuff next episode that kind of works around that. But yeah, Liz did indeed just throw it all out there. And everyone was throwing it all out there that episode for the most part.
A lot of Tribal wasn't shown. It was really long. And and I was the RA on duty that night, and so I wanted to get this over with because I was like, I need to go like answer the duty phone. But anyway, so I pulled out my idol like later in Tribal because they suggested, okay, so let's all just vote out Thal then. Like why let's like, because it was kind of like, and then it ended up going back to like let's do the original plan. But before that, it was okay. It was kind of settled. Like, okay, let's all just vote out Thal. And I was like,
was that said in front of him?
Yes. Cooper was like, okay, let's just like vote Thal then. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And so I pulled out my idol. I was like, it was like in my sports bra, and I was like, I have the idol.
Oh my god.
Because I was trying to like divert it from, I was like, okay, I need to do something big to like make this not happen. Cause like I can't, cause I wasn't really willing to play the idol for Thal because I wasn't 100% sure that they would even stick with that or if they would actually like put the votes on me, you know? And so I was like, oh my gosh. And so I just like pulled out the idol and I was like, no, we're not doing that. And then like that actually worked and it switched to like, okay, well, original plan, let's do, you know? And the original plan had been like split between Tarowski and Thal. And then I think I ended up just being like, all right, but probably not very convincingly.
Leia was surprised that Mitch had known the entire time about the plan to get rid of Liz.
I thought that was Liz.
No, so I both had a moment like that because Leia was I think we were both like fake surprise mad at Mitch because because I think that Leia was like, oh my gosh, you knew the whole time about Thal, and then I was like, and then somebody said something about how Mitch knew, like Thal had told Mitch about the plan, and that so I think we were both, because then I was like, I wasn't supposed to know anything about like how Mitch knew that, so I was like, Mitch, how could you do that to me? Like, why didn't you why didn't you tell me? We could have made this decision together. Like married
so dramatic.
Like,
oh my god.
There was one point where everyone was talking over each other, like the movies. You know how that happens in movies?
Yeah.
Everyone was talking.
It was ridiculous.
All right, well, all this chaos, and yeah, George says, well, let's get ready to vote. Everyone has there's a lot of great voting confessionals in this episode.
Yeah, Leia's saying, when Leia votes, she says, everyone is fucked next week. Literally everyone is fucked. And Mitch must get some of that vibe, because I think for the first time ever, all my years watching this season, Mitch says, you're such a idiot. Apologizes to his mom for the language. Wow.
And Cooper said, I don't know what I'm doing.
And then Tarowski is just like, looks like he's just like loving it, because he just like comes and he's like, wow, that was a mess, huh?
Yeah.
He's watching all this chaos swarm around, most likely not him this week. And yeah, must be very funny to see.
And then George decides to tally the votes. And he said, before he starts reading the votes, he asked if anybody wants to play an idol.
I really thought you were going to play it.
Yeah.
I think everyone did. I think Thal and Tarowski were like, what is she doing? Like, and Mitch was probably like, what? But basically, well, as I said, Lavana whispered in my ear, so that's how it happened. I'm also just like a strategic mastermind, and so honestly, I will say, like, I admit a lot of that was luck. Like, things went my way that week. Honestly, like, so many things in the game. Like, I got so lucky. Like, if you think about it, like, I could have been voted out when I could have been rocked out when I went to Rocks for Cooper. Like, I could have, like, there were so many things that, like, could have gone wrong. And, like, that week was one of them where it was, like, I did have a thought process, but a lot of it was luck. So it could have gone so badly. But my thought process, and again, like, everything is crazy. Like, I'm trying to think. It's really hard to, like, make a decision when you have, like, 2 seconds and everyone's been yelling and it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But, like, kind of what was going through my mind was right before the vote, the last kind of plan that Cooper had told everyone was, okay, so let's just go back to the original plan, which was like the Maisons plus Cooper were going to split between Tarowski and Thal. But then after that, he's whispering to Brittany and Leia. And so I'm like, okay, like, you know, and obviously I knew it wasn't just going to be like back to the original plan. Yeah. But nobody whispered to Mitch that entire time. And so Mitch is just sitting there like, okay, like, and so I'm like, okay, Mitch isn't in on whatever is happening. So either, like, I honestly wasn't 100% sure where the votes were going to go, because I was like, okay, they, like, the three of them, like Cooper, Leia, and Brittany are doing the same thing for sure. They're probably going to put the votes on me, but they might put them on Thal or Tarowski. And I thought maybe more likely Thal. And then, like, because it had been suggested before, like, okay, let's just vote out Thal. And I was like, no. So anyway, so I knew the three of them were voting together, but I knew Mitch wasn't in on it. I knew Mitch seemingly really didn't want me out this week. And I think that's kind of confusing because our relationship hasn't been shown to be as strong as I think it really was, like, throughout the whole game. Mm-hmm. We really, like, were close allies. And so I figured, like, Mitch was either voting Tarowski because that was, like, the original plan, and he was just, like, he actually thought, like, okay, we're all just going along with the original plan, or he was going to vote Cooper with us. So it's kind of like, okay, so I wasn't 100% sure where those 3 votes were going to go, and I wasn't willing to play the idol on Tarowski or Thal, really, because I just wasn't sure. And it was like, okay, it's like a crapshoot, like 50-50 could be one of them, but it also could be me, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was like, so I'm not, like, willing to do that. I figured, like, Mitch, if it were me, I really didn't think, and this was putting a lot of faith in Mitch, but I really didn't think that he was going to let me go, like, if it was a tie and, like, on the revote. And so I took a huge risk, and in hindsight, like, I should have played my idol for myself. But I just, like, at that point, I was so, like, I need my idol for next week. Like, I thought I was screwed without it at that point. I thought, like, the way everything blew up, I thought that, like, and I wasn't sure, like, honestly, like, if I even really had Tarowski. Like, I was like, I need to have my idol next week, or, like, I thought I was going, like, I thought there was, like, no. So I was like, okay, like, I'm just gonna take this risk, and then it all worked out.
Wow. Yeah, the fact that you
going through your head at once.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
30
like,
seconds.
Well,
like George is saying, I'll tally the votes. That's a lot.
Like a Jimmy Neutron, like, brain blast thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
All of the things. Yeah. No, but I think that, I mean, I had obviously been, you know, kind of, like, thinking throughout tribal and, like, throughout the vote, like, not through the vote, because that would already happen. Yeah. But, you know, I was like. But most of it really was in this, like, 30-second, like, oh my God, what do I do? And I was like, I'm risking it, and I'm gonna do it. And yeah.
Wow. Okay. So then the revote, Mitch flips, Cooper goes home.
Oh no.
Honestly, I feel like we haven't talked a lot about Cooper for this being his boot episode.
No, okay, I will say Cooper deserves more love, but Cooper was, like, such a lovable character. Like, why are more people not saying anything about that?
Yeah,
I know. Cooper has been incredible. I definitely think that
is this eulogy time for Cooper?
Is it eulogy time?
Yeah, eulogy time. Overall, he started off having one of the best social games.
Oh yeah,
on Neela. He was, like, everyone's winner pick at first.
He was always kind of in the middle.
It was the reason that Sarah Gallagher went home, first of all.
Oh, yeah. He always wanted to play the middle. I think he did a really good job up until this point of being able to kind of go to whatever the majority was, like, going over there and flipping and kind of seating himself with, like, the power in the game and, like, kind of aligning with the power. He was very good at challenges too. He was a big challenge threat. Mm-hmm. I think especially in the early merge and the pre-merge, he, like, really made himself into a challenge beast. We didn't get to see him win immunity though, did we?
No.
Oh, that was surprising and a bummer, but
we saw him get very, very close to finding 2 idols. But
yeah.
And I think that his smirk is an iconic piece of Survivor Michigan already.
Yeah,
definitely.
One of the things that George said earlier is how they first cast Cooper thinking he'd be, like, this, you know, this really nice, like, innocent kind of character, and he definitely, I think, is just very strategic, and, like, the appearances don't exactly match what you might think. You know, he might look like this really nice, like, really, like, loyal, whatever, like, trusting person, and he, I think, was very charming and, like, very easy to like. But at the same time, he's able to use that to his advantage in the game. And it was a very, very big threat. I think one of the bigger threats to win. So I guess not surprising that the votes ended up turning to him, because he's been seen as a threat for a long time. I think Angela and Brittany were really. I think one of the things that makes him really underrated is that I don't think a lot of people really recognize him as much of a threat as he was, other than maybe Angela and Brittany. He was a threat, but he was never the biggest threat. Mm-hmm. There's always a Tarowski or a Liz to kind of take some of the heat off of him. Yeah, I think Cooper played a really good game, and I think really it just came down to a couple of decisions that maybe if the things would have went differently, then he would still be around. All right.
Okay, yeah. So Eric on Twitter asked,
"What's up, Eric?"
Yeah, what's up, Eric? Thanks for giving us your question. He asks, who do you think is sitting in the best spot after that crazy tribal? Honestly, Liz.
Yeah.
Is in a really good spot because you still have your idol and you have the two Alexes, it seems like. And also Mitch, who still really wants you to work with him.
Yeah. I was going to say, I would give honorable mention to Mitch, who got rid of a threat, still has a lot of allies in the game, and didn't really piss anybody off. I think that everybody else has kind of like made people angry through this tribal. Like Thal, Trotsky's always kind of not been in the best graces. You know, Liz now, people know she has an idol for sure, and is still a huge threat. You know, Leia and Brittany have turned against Liz, but Mitch hasn't really like burned any bridges. I think that's definitely to his credit.
I think you can make an argument that Tarowski might be in the best position now, because despite being the number one threat for so many weeks, now I think, especially after that crazy tribal council, it might seem like you, Liz, and Thal are kind of like bigger threats than him almost, especially because Thal's game got kind of completely blown up. And I guess Liz has the idol still, but you know, after that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Bentley's probably sitting in the best position.
Bentley,
that's true. You're right.
I think Brittany's grandma, Nana, is pretty good. She has immunity.
She's doing really well this week.
Yeah.
One more. Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth.
Oh my gosh, Elizabeth. That's such a good name.
You guys have the same name.
Oh, wow.
But her question is, what are the Alex's paths to the end? That's kind of a tough question.
Does she mean individually, like, or just like as a pair?
Yeah. Like,
Not
do the
sure.
Alexes want to go to the end together? I guess is a question.
I think they do. There's nothing. I've never heard any of them in the confessional say,
Yeah.
You know what? I can't wait to backstab Alex.
Yeah.
But I feel like Trotsky wants to more so than Thal.
I do think that it's like crazy that they were this minority two within the like this 10-person merge where they were kind of two targets. Now it's like they're 2 out of 6. Like they're making up a third of the game at this point. I think it's great that they managed to get this far together. I think it's going to be tough.
They've managed to do it without managing any girls, which is pretty
wild. Exactly. I think it's going to be tough for them to make it to the end because they have Liz, they have you, but they're going to need another number somehow.
All right, I think this is their path.
Well, they have me and they have the idol that I have.
I think
it's true.
If the idol is played correctly next week, and then you 3 stick together at 5 and vote out, say like Leia,
Leia or Mitch or Brittany, like one of them, 2 of them are gone at 6 and 5.
Yeah. And then if they stick together and vote out you, because you'd definitely be the biggest jury threat, then I think that gets them into the finals of like the 2 Alexes and Brittany, which probably means one of them is going to win.
I think it's crazy, like what you guys were saying, that they made it this far, because for the past few weeks, like I think I was maybe the only one who really like should have wanted to keep them. You know, like there was no real. Well, actually, I guess I would say the week that we were worried about Trotsky's idol, it kind of made sense, especially for Leia, because her name was also on the chopping block if he did have the idol. But especially like the last week when we voted out Akshay, honestly, shocked that they let us do that.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I still can't believe that happened.
I think that might be where Cooper is wrong.
Yeah.
I think Cooper should probably make a stronger play against an Alex that week.
I think he was trying to sit back that week. I think they all knew it was dumb, but they were like, okay, like
All right. So we had a really great social media segment a couple weeks ago when we went into all these old Facebook statuses.
Oh my gosh, I laughed so hard at that.
Thanks. But I had this suspicion in the back of my mind that there's some big amount of information, something big that like we missed somehow. So I kind of went back through some different social media things and went through some Twitters, and there I saw it, the smoking gun. Now, I hate to do this to a guy who's just voted out this week.
Oh, shit.
Oh my gosh.
But what is one thing you would say about Cooper? Anybody just looking at Cooper passing by any day, what would you say Cooper's probably wearing?
Michigan hoodie.
Would you say that Cooper is this very big Michigan fan?
Yes.
Yes.
If Cooper is such this big Michigan fan, why On November 2nd, 2013, Cooper tweets, Michigan fans better be ready to cry. Hashtag Sparty on.
What?
No. Cooper was a Michigan State fan and gets amazing. There's all these tweets in support of Michigan State. Amazing first half by MSU, up by 12. And then he actually goes to the Rose Bowl game, the 100th Rose Bowl game.
What year was this?
Yeah, in 2013. And the Rose Bowl is 2014. And he tweets after State wins the Rose Bowl, I have nothing to describe what I feel right now. Hashtag indescribable. Hashtag no words. Hashtag pure joy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think a lot of his family went there.
Mm-hmm.
So like at first maybe he was like a little bit of a Sparty fan, but he had a little bit of a switch.
He did.
Oh, God.
Would you say that the Spartans were kind of like the Nila tribe, and Michigan's kind of the Masons, and he's just kind of pretending he's a Mason, even though he actually isn't.
Mm.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, and then I just knew there had to be a little bit more, so I went into his Facebook photos and saw some old photos. He's wearing Michigan State shirts.
Oh my God!
This is horrible.
Instagram or something, but. I mean, they're all with random people, so we can crop them out. But at least three different shirts he has are Michigan State.
That is wild.
For that we thought we knew.
Yeah, I don't even know who he is. I know Thal Facebook stalked him. It was so funny at the after part. I think it was the after party for the after the season. We went up to Thal's room to like watch some video that he had at like a confessional or something, and it was like Cooper mentioned me, and we like go in his room, and there's this giant picture of Cooper on his laptop. It's just Cooper. Cooper's like, what? Why do you have this?
Oh my God.
And then, like, there are all these pictures of Cooper and Mitch, like, on Thal's computer. And you're like, what is
creep?
And so Thal probably knew about that, because I'm pretty sure he Facebook stalked everyone.
Yeah.
He has like a folder for everyone with pictures, like receipts.
Yeah, I mean, all I remember was like Cooper and Mitch pictures, but it was so funny. That's so crazy, though. I wonder if Cooper just has like an evil twin or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you for coming on and bringing some sunshine to this dreary day.
Oh my gosh. No, you're welcome. It was so fun. I'm so honored to be a guest. You know, you guys are so cool. Like, I mean, I'm like such a fan of all of you. Anyway. But
a little bit starstruck, Liz. We get it. Yeah.
I am so starstruck.
Even though you're a star yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to see how the rest of the season turns out. You still have an idol in your pocket. I know some crazy stuff's going to go down next episode. So
Yeah.
No. It's gonna be crazy.
Definitely follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. Send in more questions or comments or anything if you have anything about after the next episode. And
and follow our personal accounts and like our photos. Our personal accounts too.
See you guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.